It's Romania Black, and we're on episode 11 of March Comes In Like a Lion. I can't believe we're already at episode 11. It's so crazy. We're, if I'm counting right, because there's 44 episodes, I think, in this season, we're a fourth of the way done at this point. A fourth of the way through, and we've had so much happen. So much has happened in these last 10 episodes. The last episode was so powerful. Just seeing Ray finally take that first step towards realizing like how he feels about the situation, because Ray can't solve everything in one episode. He can't. He's on a journey of self-discovery. He's trying to like work through his own internal problems and everything. But the first step towards him being able to fight back against Kyoko, the first step towards him being able to realize that him and Nikaido are BFFs forever, the first step for Ray to grow as an individual and realize where Shogi places in his life and what he needs to do is to realize how does he feel about Shogi. And while he doesn't know whether he loves it or not, he does know that he has a competitive spirit inside of him. It's a monster. It's a storm. He has this competitive spirit that he's like, I want to win and I will fight to survive. However I have to fight, I'm gonna do it. And I think him accepting that and realizing that and shouting it out to the world, while it was bittersweet and you just wanted to hug him and it was heartbreaking, that's the first step towards him becoming an adult and becoming able to stand on his own and defend himself. So I'm proud of Ray and how far he's made it in this first leg of the journey, but we're only in Act 1, right? If we're breaking 44 episodes into a 4-act Japanese structure, and I know that the manga's ongoing, someone commented that on YouTube and I was like, I'm not gonna read the manga after the anime's over. I just don't have time. So that's why I was like, no, I'm already following like 6 manga series. I don't have room for another. So whenever the series is over, hopefully they'll eventually make another season of March Comes In Like a Lion and I would watch it in a heartbeat. But please don't ask me if I'm going to read the manga after this. I probably am not. I just don't have time with all the other series on my channel. So we're gonna just treat this manga, this anime as it is, and I probably will not be able to read the manga right now. And that doesn't mean I want to know spoilers from the manga, obviously. I don't, because they may end up making another season of this. This series only came out between 2016 and 2018, which seems like a long time, but if this series is going to get animated, there's a very good chance that it may get another anime adaptation or another season. So I don't want to know manga spoilers, but if we're treating the 44 episodes we have as like a 4-act structure, then Act 1 is introducing all the characters, it felt like the last episode was the end of the first act. We've met Ray, we've met all the people associated in his life, we've seen how they all interact with him and their place in his life, and we've seen his conflict, the struggle that he has to accept the fact that he's taken on Shogi as a means of survival from his foster father, and the complicated relationships he has with his foster family versus the memories of his biological family he's lost versus the found family that he's gained that have taken him in and support him. So there's all of these networks of things we've been introduced to. And last episode was like the end of Act 1. The curtain fell. Ray has declared to the world he's going to fight to survive. And now we go from there. Or this episode will do that it felt like last episode felt like a curtain close, but this might be like the epilogue to that. So before we dive in, I don't have any comments necessarily, but I do want to talk about these 3 end cards from episodes 8, 9, and 10, because I keep forgetting to talk about them. And I've been recording ahead, and so I asked Discord, and so Death to Boredom, thank you for giving me these end cards, along with a couple others on there as well. This first one, the end card, I think Anthony might have been one as well. This first end card is from episode 8 by Katsuya Terada of the grandpa, with all the food. I really like the hyper-realistic drawing of the grandpa. That's really, really cool. I think that's the number 3 by it. Maybe? Is it the number 3? I'm not exactly sure, but which would be March 3 gatsu, no lions, so that makes sense. Okay. I really like that one by Katsuya Terada. This one for number 9, episode 9, is by Rinsuke Oshikiri. This one is really interesting. It feels like the vibe of it is so like, Ray looks terrifying there. Ray looks terrifying there, and it looks like, what if March Comes In Like a Lion was like a battle shonen? That's what this looks like. It looks like a battle shonen version of Three Gatsu, and like these shogi pieces are going to become like knives that stick into their enemies. That's what it feels like. So I really like that. And then if episode 9's in card by Rinsuke Oshikiri was talking about if Three Gatsu was a battle shonen, then episode 10's is like, well, what if March Comes In Like a Lion was a pop idol group? and then we have Momo and Akari and Hina and then Kyoko in the group. Yes. I think that that's really cute. I like their outfits remind me of Final Fantasy for some reason. Their outfits look like something I would see in Final Fantasy. Like I'm waiting for their backup dancers to be chocobos. Mm-hmm. I also like how Kyoko is not really into being in the idol group with them. She's just kind of just there by proxy and because she has no choice. Interestingly enough, Kyoko, we've dealt with her the last few episodes and Ray has dealt with her. What's interesting is she doesn't ever confront Ray when he's around other people. And I think that's very intentional. I talked about it in the last episode. But it is a strategy of manipulation where because I think if anybody else saw what she was doing to Ray, she would call her out and be like, hey, why are you being like that? Stop that. And because she's so insecure about herself and because she's actually so cowardly herself, she'd do one of two things. She'd either run away and be like, doesn't want people to see her that way, or she'd fight back with a knife. I don't know which it would be. I would like to think that deep inside she's so insecure that she has to corner Ray because she believes she has a power advantage over him. And as long as nobody's around to challenge her, she can get away with it. But the moment someone challenges her, she's either going to lash out or she's going to run away. So it's a matter of, I guess it would be a matter of who she was dealing with. But a part of me would like Akari to just smack her across the face and be like, get the fuck out. But we've not had that happen yet. I'm just waiting for Kyoko to like show up at Akari's house and she'd be like, this is my house, bitch, get out. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for that moment if it happens. I'm also ready for Nikaido to try to kill her with kindness because I want that to happen. I want her to like try to get on Nikaido's like good side. Nikaido's like, sure, now go away, please. I have a feeling she's going to keep showing up in this series and I'm going to keep wanting to politely push her off a bridge. So, but anyway, we've talked enough. I'm ready and excited to get down into this episode and see what we get. So, without further ado, we aren't going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right in and look at March Comes In Like a Lion, episode 11, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. You almost had me, show. You almost had me. I was feeling like this surge of emotion in the last part of the episode just like swell up within me. And I was like, no, don't cry. It's just like, this show is out to get you. It wants you to cry. It wants you to sob. But not like, it doesn't want you to cry like in a sad way. It wants you to cry in like a cathartic sort of like cleansing your soul kind of way. So like when you do cry, you don't feel sad about it. You're just like, yes, my soul needs to be cleansed. These are happy tears that are just flooding out of my eyes and purifying my skin. That's literally what this episode feels like. Wow. So this episode definitely felt like the curtain of Act 1. Felt like of the series, of the season. And again, I know the manga's ongoing, but this definitely for this anime series itself, if it's 44 episodes, this is the 4th of the way through. It felt like a very nice wrap up of here's part 1. Ray's starting to come to some conclusions perhaps, or at least there are some thoughts and emotions that are starting to impact Ray in ways that maybe he's not thought about before that we should probably visit in the next episodes or so. But yeah, old year versus the new year. I like how low key this episode was. I like this episode was so just focusing on Ray and his self-care and his self-care involving him and this family. That's really what this is about him and his family. I also like that Crunchyroll released this on Christmas Eve. That's such a great, crazy thing to do. It feels like it'd be so perfect to watch like as you're welcoming the new year. I always feel like the time in between Christmas and the new year doesn't exist. I feel like there's a special place in the time stream continuum where if you celebrate Christmas, or even if you don't celebrate Christmas, I feel like around December 25th, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, it's like, it feels like a holiday. It feels like a celebration, at least where I'm at in the world. And I always feel like the day after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, that week, that 7 days, it feels like time just doesn't exist. It fluctuates in and out. I feel like I get all of the things done and none of the things done ever. And you just don't know what to do with yourself during that week. You're like, I don't know. It's not New Year's yet. So I don't know. So it always feels like a weird blip in time. So a lot of this episode, it felt like that time frame where time was just kind of stuck in this moment. It wasn't necessarily moving forward. It was just stuck in this moment, which is interesting to me. So we needed to talk about this episode because quite a bit happens and we get some insight a little bit into Ray. So when his matches were over for the year, he became bedridden with a terrible fever and he curled up in his dimly lit room, and December 31st, the last day of the year, arrived. So we're assuming that his last match was right before Christmas. So right after Christmas, he gets sick, right? I'm assuming, we don't know for sure, that maybe he saw the sisters during Christmas, or he saw them like around that time. I don't think he went home to his foster family during that time. I think that's kind of the point. Interesting though, isn't it? Interesting that when push comes to shove and Kyoko's like, well, won't you come back home for the holidays, and won't you do this and won't you do that? She doesn't pester him. She doesn't bother him, but she doesn't like actively come and be in his life when it would give him any sense of joy, because why would she do that? That's not her deal. The interesting thing is that we don't know if she went home and saw her family over Christmas or New Year's. We don't know. We don't get any insight into if either of the siblings were with Coda or not. So we don't know that. That's like a piece of the puzzle that's conveniently left out for us to not know. Now, whether it comes back or not, that we find out what she was doing during that time, I don't know. But this whole idea of when he's sick by himself, oh my God. This whole scene of him being sick, I can relate so much to Ray in this, because I'm the type of person, I don't like taking medicine. I don't like going to the doctor. I've realized as I've gotten older that I need to do these things for my own health, but I don't like doing them. And it's kind of like, there is a part of it that is like, you don't want to be a burden, but then there's another part of it being like, well, I don't want to take medicine because I don't want to put that in my body, or I'll be fine. I'll just be able to work through it. I can sift through it. It's okay. Everything's fine. But the reality is, when you are sick, it is so much more helpful to have someone there. And not everybody gets that opportunity, right? So, when you're sick, you don't want to do anything. That's the problem. Like, I've been lucky, knock on wood. I've only had the flu a couple of times. Mostly it's just like a cold or a headache or something like that. And usually with like a headache or a cold, you can work through it. You can be fine. Like a headache, you're out for like a couple hours or maybe half a day to a day, but then you bounce back and you're good. A cold, depending on how severe it is, you can kind of work through it and just be like, well, this sucks. And I'm just like, but a flu, the times that I've had the flu, you literally are just bedridden. And if you have a fever, you just sit there and sweat. You don't want to do anything. You're lethargic. You're not hungry, but you're also hungry. And it's just like the worst feeling. I think I've only had the flu like 3 times. And one time I had it, I remember it was around Christmas and New Year's, and I was just stuck in bed for a week eating rice and drinking soup broth, and that was it. And that's all I could stomach, all I could keep down. And around that time, my friend who was in graduate school, he was like, hey, while you're in bed and you can't move, you should probably check out Naruto. And so that whole week I just sat in bed. I could barely move, but I had my laptop in my lap and I just pulled up Naruto. I found it on a fan site where it was translated. I just sat there like, all I had to do was press this button the whole week and read Naruto, like the entire like 1,000-some chapters. I just sat there like, and that's all I did for a week because that's all I could muster the strength to do. So I could totally understand where Ray's coming from, where he's like, I just don't want to move. I don't want to do anything. He's like, I need to take my medicine. I'm thirsty. But then he knocks the water down and he's like, and you would think, you're like, oh, Ray, just get up and get the water bottle. But when you're sick and you have the flu, the idea of even getting out of bed just feels miserable. You don't want to do it. You're just like, no, my body's shut down. I don't want to move. Nope. And then he's like, I only have 1 pill left. And you could say, oh, I have a phone I could call. But as we find out, his phone's been dead the last 3 days, so he's not been able to call anybody. Nobody's been able to call him. So there's this like generated feel of isolation, and he's pulled the curtains. It just shows that all the lights kept out. Like Ray has just isolated himself in his loneliness. And he doesn't want to bother anybody, but he also doesn't know what to do. And I like the waves coming in and crashing in to kind of represent, again, like the OP, they represent him drowning. The idea of he's just drowning in this misery because he doesn't know what to do. And he doesn't even have like legit medicine. He has like the little cough drops that you get that don't really help, or like Loratabs or something. I had someone on the team that I coach that they caught a horrible sickness while we were at our national tournament. Like when we flew back from where the national tournament was, we were in the airport, and I'm like, you don't look good. And they were like, no. And they were like a Victorian waif on death's door. And I was like, oh my God. And then we got back to the college, and a few days later, they still looked horrible. And I was like, you need to go to the doctor. And they're like, oh, it's fine. I just have some like cough drops. I'm like, that's not enough. Go to the doctor. I felt like a Kari. I was like, go to the doctor and find out what's wrong with you. And they were like, oh, they just gave me some medicine. And I was like, well, but yeah, this idea of, oh, I'll just go back to sleep. I've done that too. So many times when I'm sick, I'm like, I'll just go back to sleep. And then maybe when I wake up, it'll be like it never happened. I've done that because you're just like, you feel so bad that you're like, nope, I'll just sleep it away and it'll go away. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. You really do need medicine, especially if it's like a severe cold or a flu. But you tell yourself it's fine, and there we go. So he says, I stayed in the apartment for days, delirious with a fever, and I had the same dream over and over again. Now, what's kind of weird is I've had this dream that Ray had. It's not to the full extent, but I've had a dream when I was a kid of being in an escalator and going up an escalator and it being like in a big white light room and it going to wherever. And then usually I would wake up. But I've had that dream before. So when he starts talking about it, I was like, now here, when he gets to the top of the escalator, you don't see anybody else on the escalators. Well, maybe there's a couple people there. But when he gets to the top of the long escalator, he's like, it's not scary. I just go up and up. And when I reach the top, this is the part that he actually sees. And when you get to the top, there's just like a little window with light. What's interesting is when you get to the top, there's like a broken park bench. There's like some plants that are strung over. There's like some party favors. It looks like a banner. And then there's like a one window with a light. And then there's like a ladder that you can't climb. When you get to the top, there's no way back. So, I mean, you could break this down. Like, what does this dream mean? And I guess we might as well look up like escalator dreams. Escalator dream meanings. Yeah, why not? An escalator to nowhere. That's something different. I want to look this up. Escalator dream meaning. We're going to look this up and see what this is. What does it mean to see an escalator in a dream? Well, there's a lot of dream interpretations, apparently. It says that the direction you're moving will determine whether you're examining what is deeper or aspiring levels of functioning. It says the slow, steady pace of an escalator symbolizes gentleness and grace in a process of investigation that is going on. That kind of sounds like, now I'm taking this from like what dreamsmean.net, so we'll take this with a grain of salt. From Dr. Michael Lennox of the Complete Dictionary of Dreams. I mean, seems like a credible source. But they say that a slow, steady escalator symbolizes the gentleness and grace in the process of investigation. So I guess that could mean that, you know, just like the game of shogi, Ray going slowly up the escalator and it's not being disrupted or anything just means that he's aware of the process of shogi and the route that it's taking him on. That makes sense. Climbing a ladder of success with relative ease, you know where you're going and going where you're and know where you're moving towards the top. But here's the thing. The escalator only goes to the top. And this dream website doesn't talk about that, but there's no way back down. So I feel like for that dream, it's telling Ray that he has this expectation. And again, we tie to the pressure that's building on of him from other people around him. He has this pressure and expectation to keep rising to the top of the shogi world. And now that he's had this like self-realization about himself and how he's going to fight to survive, I think that Ray anticipates he can get there. The thing he doesn't know is once he gets to the top of the ladder, there's no way back down. You have to stay up there to survive. So then what? And what else is there beyond getting to the top of the ladder? And I think that by the end of this episode, when he realizes that the home that he's staying in with the sisters is very akin to his biological home, I feel what I want Ray to have this realization about is that beyond being a professional shogi player at the top of your game, this sanctuary, this little rickety house with a bathroom built on, and there's no room for a changing room in their yard, is that home. It is that sanctuary, that it's his palace that he can go to whenever he feels unease with the rest of the world. That's what I want him to realize. And I feel like he edges closer and closer in there, which is great. So there you go. But yeah, and so then as the waves are rippling, I like the idea of the door coming into frame and it's Momo ringing on the doorbell. I thought it would be Nikaido for a minute. I'm glad we see a postcard from Nikaido because I've missed him. I keep wanting him to show back up, but he's off doing other things right now, so I'm sure he'll come back in at some point. But poor Ray, he's like, oh, I can't get up. And then he hears it's Momo, and he's like, okay, I have to because it's Momo. And then, of course, I love the glare on Hina and Akari's face when they open up the door. I'm going to take a picture of that. I love the glare where they're like, how dare you not tell us that you were sick, sir? How dare you try to take care of it alone? We're going to come in and take care of you. And then Akari's like, yep, you had a cold. Let's go. I love the idea that she's like, we're going to take you to the doctor. If you've got the flu, you're coming back here and we're going to take care of you. If you have a cold, you're coming to our house because then we're fine. That's okay. Cold's just a bacterial infection. We can clear that up. But flu is a virus. We don't want to spread that around to my grandpa who's elderly and my toddler little sister. So yeah, I love that he puts the pajamas on and he has the little cardigan that was Koda's over it. And then he has his pea coat on. So cute. This episode was like cleansing the soul. It was adorable. I also like the idea that the scarf that Akari puts on him is red and the scarf that he had on when he met with Kyoko was blue. So it's like two different atmospheres, two different like moods and feelings when he visits them. But this little house, this little crowded house, I love it. And I love the idea that it's just this little cozy house where they're all crammed in together and they can all barely fit, but it feels so cozy. It feels so much like home. And they have little kotatsu. It's everything. And she makes him the porridge. Like Akari is a mom. She's very, very maternal and she's had to grow up fast to take on her mother's role and her grandmother's role in their absence. And I like that Hina helps out and so does Momo. Like, honestly, at the beginning of this series, I didn't know if I didn't really want to ship him with either of the sisters. I feel Akari's too old for him. I don't know. I don't know how old Akari is at this point, but I feel like maturity-wise, she's at this point in the story too old for him. I feel like she's in her mid-20s. She might be in her early 20s, maybe. Hina's in middle school. So if you had an epilogue to this series, or if this series like ages Ray as we go and we get Ray in his 20s, you have, Hina's only a few years younger than him. So if she's in her early, late teens, early 20s, then I could see him and her, like Hina and Ray being a ship. But then if Akari's only like 20 or 22 and he's 17, maybe 15 or 16, then there's still a little bit of age difference between Akari and him. So I could see more likely Hina and him getting together, but there's a part of me that wants Ray to marry into this family so that he has a place and he doesn't have to rely on the foster family. He doesn't have to rely on the evil stepsister. He doesn't have to do any of that. He can stay with this family that clearly wants to make him a permanent addition and go from there. Because here's the thing. I could see some people based on the conversation that Ray has with Akari wanting to ship the two of them together because she talks about how she was so lonely after the death of her mom and her grandma and she needed someone else in her life that wasn't family, that she didn't have to treat like family. And then here came Ray. So I could see people wanting to ship them because of that, but I don't think you necessarily have to. I think that Ray and Akari can share that, like, that acknowledgement that they both are lonely people that have found like solace and comfort in one another as friends. And I think it can be totally platonic. Now, Another part of me wants Hina to get with Takashi the ace, who is friends with Rei. So again, if Rei grows up into an adult and him and Akari got together, I would be totally fine with that. If Hina ended up with Takashi the ace, and then Takashi and Rei could play shogi against one another as like brother-in-laws, that'd be so cute. I would actually like that a lot. But yeah, there could be that, and the Kaido could be the best friend that comes over, the wealthy benefactor. That happens to be their best friend. I would be all for that. I would love that, actually. But I also like shipping Raven to Kaido, and I like shipping Rei. I've never considered Rei as a ship with Akari because right now he's too young for her and she's too old. But later on, if they become adults, I could see it. You would not surprise me if he grew up and married Akari. I would not be surprised. Or if Hina and Takashi didn't work out, that Rei and Hina ended up together. I wouldn't be surprised either. So yeah, I definitely could see both of it. I feel like Rei finds such a sense of home here with them that it's so beautiful. And the thing about it is, like, in this house, it's so tiny, but eventually Hina and Momo, I feel like Akari's going to inherit the house. She's going to inherit the house. The grandpa, not to be morbid, but eventually the grandfather will pass. And so then I feel like Momo and Hina might get other houses with their partners. So I feel like Akari would keep the house and would keep everything there as part of tradition. So I don't know. I would like Rei to be able to be there. I think that would be awesome. But we're counting our chickens way before they hatch. I just love that Momo and Hina and Akari take care of Rei. They put the little cold patch on his head. They put the scarf around him so it'll soak up the sweat. They give him the porridge. They literally take care of him like he's family. And they give him the medicine. I love the cats fighting over the tangerines. It's so funny. It's so cute. The Japanese word for tangerine is adorable, by the way. And then here's the thing. I like that, he talks about, oh, well, he's like, I don't have any place to go back to. I'm kind of on my own. And then that Shaft Studio, the moment that her head turns, it's like, what? Are you sure? Like, every time that head turn happens, something dramatic is about to go down. And she's like, on your own, huh? You think that you're by yourself? And then she's like, let me see your phone and plug it in. And Koda, dad, missed call. The fact that he calls, and Kawamoto. So there's one call from their house, Kawamoto's, in there amidst all of his father. It's so interesting he calls Koda his dad in the phone. So interesting. But yeah. She's like, don't say I'm on my own when you have people worried about you so much. And I love that because it shows that even though he tries to frame it as he is on his own, and the thing about it is, a lot of that is just poison that Kyoko has fed into his system. She's fed into his system that he's on his own and that he's not wanted. She's fed that poison to him and he's bought into it. And Akari is literally spoon feeding him the medicine to that poison, saying, no, you're not. You are wanted. And we do care about you. Don't think that we don't. And so I'm so glad that she showed him that and told him that. And that moment that she hands him the phone feels like the moment from the OP where he like touches the hand and like the world swirling of light goes around it. So here's the thing. He calls back to their house and calls, and we see, he says, Dad, it's Rei. And we see him pick up. We don't see anybody else in the house. And then the dad talks about how he figures out he had a cold and that he was about to go over and see him since he hadn't answered his phone. I was about to go over there. Are you sure you're okay? And the moment I heard my father's voice on the phone, I realized how thoughtless I had been. And that wave, like the waves crashing, I could tell he was really worried about me. And like all these waves, like the feel waves are like hitting him and he says, I'm an idiot. That's really interesting. Koda is a fascinating character. Obviously, I don't think he's winning any Dad of the Year awards, but it's so interesting how when he's around Kyoko, how they frame their father. It's sort of like he's this negligent dad that's just pushing their kids to just be a shogi player like him, and he doesn't care about their own interests or the fact that he tears his own family apart, and they frame him in a very negative light. And then you have a moment here where Koda is framed as being worried about Rei and going over to see him. And the thing about it is he doesn't ask Ray about Shogi. He doesn't ask Ray, you know, have you seen your foster sister or like whatever. He just asks if he's okay. And so it just paints him like it's a very realistic portrayal that even if your parent isn't the best person in the world, that there still is some care maybe there. Because I mean, I could think of a lot of parents that wouldn't call if they didn't care. But he clearly does. So it adds another layer of complexity there, right? I mean, is it enough to make me think he's a saint? No. But I think it's adding a layer where Ray is like, okay, my foster dad did care about me. My thoughts were spinning around in my head, but I had just been thinking about myself. I like that way it goes from like grayscale to color and the sunset colors there again. But it's like, I feel like him thinking about himself. Again, I think it's just that poison from his encounter with Kyoka getting rid from his system. And Akari's like, all right, let's give him take some medicine again. Like, I think that there is a huge difference in the fact that Kyoko shows up. She shows up, demands things of Ray, makes a big fussy deal about it, and then exits without leaving him with any consideration or care. And then you juxtapose that with Akari, who wakes him up to care for him and make sure that he's on top of everything and getting better. And then it seems like everybody either passes out under the kotatsu or they all have gotten their own colds, and she's like, I knew this would happen. We had 3 more people then, so it was pretty packed. It was like we were running out of oxygen. Now here's the thing. She said 3 more people. She made that comment. She brought it up. And he's like, yeah, their father. No one mentions the dad. The dad is not mentioned at all. And he clearly, she talks about her and her grandma and her mom cleaned up dishes and did the same thing every year. And he's like, nobody in this house talks about their father. Now, the dad is clearly not the son of the grandpa, because it seems like the mom and the aunt are the grandpa's 2 children. Like their mom and then their aunt, Misaki, Minako and Misaki are the 2 daughters. And so the dad is not related to the old man, the grandpa. He married in. So I don't know. There's a big question, like, where is the dad? The dad didn't die, I don't think, because they don't have like a little shrine thing up for him. I wonder if the dad was like not around, if the dad divorced the mom, like after Momo was born, if the dad, like maybe after their mom died, the dad was like, I can't take it, and he left. Or after the mom and grandma died, the dad was like, I don't want the responsibility of taking care of you all, and he left. The only way I can imagine the reason they don't mention him is because I don't want to use the word deadbeat, because deadbeat dad is kind of like a trope. But the fact that he's not there, nobody seems to care that he's not there or mention him, especially around Momo. I feel like maybe he's a negligent dad that nobody wants to talk about. And they don't want to speak about him because he's not there to help take care. And Akari had to take everything over after he left. I don't know. I'm glad Ray didn't just come out and be like, hey, what about your dad? So I'm glad, but I think the fact of the matter that Ray has such issues with his foster father and these complicated emotions, and the fact that Akari doesn't seem to want to talk about their dad, I feel like Akari and Ray may at some point have talks about their father figures, and that's going to be a thing. But I don't know. Nobody wants to bring it up, right? And then she's like, all right, let's make some food. And then she talks about, like you see her mom and her when she's a little kid, and she looks so cute. And the mom looks a lot like the aunt, too. They all look very similar. And then she said when she was gone before Momo had the chance to hear them. Which is really sad. I feel bad that Momo didn't get a chance to know her mom or her grandma. So, she's like, I wanted you to come. And then she said, if you weren't here right now, I probably would be crying. What did she say there? So I'd be cleaning up by myself and crying. She's like, I needed you to be here so that I could have some stability. Because she's like, I can't do it all she's like, I need somebody that's not my family here to keep me grounded. That part did make me want to ship them a little bit, because I was like, damn, they're both helping ease their own loneliness. But if you told me they just end up being platonic best friends, I'm like, I'm fine with that. Or he's like a brother to her, I'm fine with that too. I could see it going a lot of different directions, but him, when he started crying, I was like, no, Ray. I was like, that part got me. I was like, and we're good. And I love this, just the idea of them sniffling and trying to find tissues before everybody wakes up and they're crying. This show, it doesn't miss. It doesn't miss. So, and I love the idea that he says, I had been distracted by my own loneliness. I failed to recognize someone else's loneliness. That's the thing. We always, a lot of times, just us as humans, we don't realize the struggles that other people are going through. And so we forget that there are people struggling just as much as we are. And it's like, oh, it's so sad. But yeah. I love this idea of him like taking the old year out and welcoming like this pathetic old year, this foolish self, and let the New Year's bells fall upon him gently, and like this river come in and wash away the old version of him and bring in this new version. I love that. I love everything about the theme of that. That's so amazing. It's mwah, it's brilliant. It's perfect. I feel like Lady Gaga. It's brilliant. Never done before. Never heard of it. Amazing. Outstanding. Like that just, I love the concept of that. So then we also have the little kites. We have all the different kites to represent each people like coming in. And then we see the mom of Ray and his sister, Chihiro. I feel like the mom, who has like brown hair and everything, she kind of resembles a Kari a little bit, only with shorter bobbed hair. Just saying. That has like green eyes, kind of similar to Ray's, only they're more like emerald green instead of like the bright green. And putting the sticker on the drawers. I can relate. I think every little kid, if they had access to stickers, put them on some kind of drawer. And I love her cleaning it out. Oh, poor little Ray, though, with his sister. It's so precious. I'm like, oh my God. So cute. And it shows her cleaning it off. When she has, like, the cat face and the grumpy face, also her hairstyle kind of looks like Nikaido, so I guess you could ship him with Akari or Nikaido. Her hairstyle does look like Nikaido's a lot, actually. But the way that she gets all grumpy and huffy and is like, fine, I'll just clean it off myself. The way that she does that reminds me of when Ray, like, got huffy at Nikaido. Like, her grumpy reaction reminds me of Ray. So maybe Ray gets, like, his little huffiness from his mom. That would be really cute if he did. If he took stuff from both his parents. And then, oh, he just looks so pure in that moment where he wakes up and you can see his eyelashes. He just looks so pure. I love, though, that you can instantly tell when he wakes up that he's in the house of the Kawamoto family, because it feels a little bit cramped. And then Momo and them come and wake him up. And so on New Year's, they all come in, they get the paper out, they're watching a TV special and everything, and then it's all crowded, and then Akari's making everything, and then we have, I love that she, like, helps check to make sure he still doesn't have a fever or not. And then we have the aunt come in. Now, in Japan, I guess getting postcards for New Year's is like a big deal because she gets a whole stack of them. And so they like divvy them all out. And then she goes to check and see if Ray has any. And she's so sad that he only got 2. One of them being from the Shogi Association. And one of them, of course, being from Nikaido. So the one from Nikaido, oh my God. Can we talk about it? Because he like opens it and looks on it. And it's just like, it's Nikaido. Does he have a golden retriever? Does Nikaido have a golden retriever? Of course he would have a golden retriever. But he also has a mansion behind him. He's in a suit with a tie. And they have their own personal hot air balloon that has Nikaido. Nikaido is working for Team Rocket. He's Giovanni's son. I'm fully convinced. He's Gary's brother. I'm fully convinced he's Gary's brother. Because he looks kind of like him. Their family owns a hot air balloon like Team Rocket. They have a giant-ass mansion. He probably has all 8 gym badges and has beaten the Elite Four at least twice. I am convinced of it. But I love that Ray's like, what do I do with your bouginess? What kind of cottage is that? Is that a palace? It's like, no, it's his summer home. It's his winter home. And then there's the Japan Shogi Association Chairman of the association is Takanori Jinguji, the 16th Grandmaster. So he's like the head of the Shogi Association, I am assuming. The head honcho with his giant swordfish. And the grandpa seems to know him. That he's been to Malaysia. He's been to Malaysia! Of course! Those that have watched Jujutsu Kaisen, everybody goes to Malaysia. And then has this sailfish. I like that the grandpa's like, yeah, I know him. He's a fisherman. He was a strong player. So the grandpa somehow knows these shogi players too, which is interesting to me. He's like, why am I defending him? So then the aunt, Misaki, shows up. I love her. She shows up. She looks a lot like this daughters and like their mom, I'm sure. I love she gives them all money. And she even gives Ray some money and then puts some at the funeral, at the little funeral pyre. Yep. Now, she doesn't say anything about the dad either. Now that we know about this father figure, the fact that nobody mentions him is so crazy to me. Like, the aunt doesn't mention him. Nobody talks about him. We're just not going to mention him at all. I'm sure it's going to come up again, so I don't want spoilers, but just knowing that we'll find out. I do love the aunt and her ring and everything. She's married. She has a husband because he was watching the soccer game, right? So, but they don't have any kids because there's no mention of cousins. Interesting. But I love that we transition from the incense going like through, we transition from the incense with the little funeral memorial to the cigarette smoke going through the air vent. I love it. And so the dad is getting on to her saying, don't put Akari in danger. And she's like, I run a tight-knit establishment, sir. My bar is a palace. It's refined and caters to regulars. It's my treasured palace. I love it. And she's like, do you intend to keep Akari at home doing housework and childcare until she gets old? She's like, your granddaughter's serious. She's committed and she wants to help people and she likes to take in strays and she likes to take care of people because she's very maternal. And if you don't let her go out and experience the world, she'll just stay in here and take care of her sisters till she's 40. She's like, your granddaughter doesn't need to do that. She needs to put on makeup, wear a pretty outfit, and go outside. Which, you could take that to be like, what are you suggesting, aunt? But what she's saying is, like, your granddaughter needs to go out and have a life. Like, she's a beautiful girl, and what will you do if she becomes weary with all this housework and misses her chance to get married? Well, when she gets older, she can marry Ray, but, we'll keep that on the back burner. For now, it's still too early to even think about that. But I do like the fact that the aunt's like, I want to get her out of the house and going to meet people and socializing, and she can still do her maternal thing there, but she needs to go have a life outside of her own home, right? She needs to go do that. And she's like, and if any patrons try to get in the way, then I'll just take their money. And I'm just like, that aunt would she'd cut a bitch. I believe she'd be like, yes, I will watch over my niece, don't you worry. He's like, Black Pearl from the South Sea. She's like, I'll grab them if they try to do anything to my niece and take their money. And I love that he's like, you gave birth to a demon. He tells his wife, it's like, you gave birth. My daughter is a demon. Mm-hmm. I would honestly, you know what? Like, what if Kyoko shows up at the bar? That, like, if Ray's at the bar with Akari and, like, Issa and Smith and, like, Kyoko. Again, we don't see Kyoko showing up there with anybody because she never wants to be around when other people could criticize her. So maybe not. But I would imagine, like, Kyoko showing up at the bar and the aunt and Akari are like, get out. And, like, get her to leave. But I don't know. But I do like the aunt a lot. Her character is really, really cool. And then I like that Akari, like, subtly tries to get her to stay. She's like, don't you want to stay and, like, have some of our labor of love that we spent all this time on? And the aunt's like, sure, yeah. She's like, your uncle went to see a soccer game anyway. New Year's soccer game, what can we do? And I love the little New Year's bento box. It's so cute, and they worked so hard on it. I love the little fish cake balls, and they made all the different things. Honestly, the lotus root burdock, I've read and watched Modao Zushi, and I thought it was more of, I guess, I don't know why I thought this, but it was shown a lot, and it was the first time I ever saw it in Chinese Danmai. So I thought that it was more like a Chinese delicacy. I didn't think that people in Japan had it, but they do, obviously. So that's interesting to know. Good to know. But I love the reasoning for it. Like, there's a reason why all of the New Year's stuff is there, and it all has meaning, which is so cool. And so they're like, Hina and I planned this all out. So they talk about, we thought about and packed it with auspicious food items. but we wanted to make a traditional New Year's food that's delicious. So they had red and white fish cake. We wouldn't finish it, so we made the little fish cake balls and put them on skewers. Just recycling, being bold. Pork beans so we can all live healthy lives. Okay, pork and beans. It is New Year's tradition with my family that you have to eat like white beans and ham. If you don't have white beans and ham, you don't have good luck. So you have to have white beans for New Year's every year. Otherwise, you don't have good luck for the year. That's like a family tradition. And then they're like golden mashed sweetened chestnuts to increase luck with money. The lotus burdock root so we can see through things. I love that. And then the burdock root means rolls to stay firmly rooted. I love that. And then the mini hamburger turtles to pray grandpa has a long life. That's super cute. I want a hamburger turtle. And then rolled omelet mixed with fish paste, sweet egg strips. And I like that they have all this food and Ray's like, we never really had this. Ray's like, what is this New Year's food? Like he doesn't seem to understand exactly what it is. It's not something he's familiar with. And then gum. I like Mama says, and gum and spaghetti, because that's what a little toddler would say. But it's just so cute, right? And she's like, you just feel a sense of accomplishment and achievement when you create something like that. Yeah, wow. You can see how much Akari looks like Misaki. So much. Interesting. The interesting thing about all of this is that like Hina and Akari look a lot like their aunt, and I'm assuming their mom. Well, we saw that picture of mom, so they look a lot like Momo. Does not look like any of them, so I'm assuming Momo takes after the dad, but we don't know anything about him. So yeah, then the aunt goes and they see her off, and then they're all washing the dishes, and that's when Akari's like, yeah, about this. And she pulls back the door, and there's the bath. It's just there. It's been there the whole time. This house is so condensed and tiny, and they're just moving. I love it because it's such a condensed little house. It's very realistic, but it's also like, it's just there. There's like no privacy. Everything is just right out in the open, right? We didn't have a tub, and they used to go to like a public bath, which is kind of insane, but I guess a lot of people probably do that in the city because, but the family got bigger, so they made this bathroom addition to the yard. Now, that's something interesting to note, right? So the way she talks, when she was a kid, they went to the public bath because there was maybe just her mom and her dad and her and maybe Hina. So maybe that was it. We don't know exactly how the mom and grandma died. That's not been revealed to us yet. I'm wondering if, to phrase it gently, if Momo was an accident. They didn't expect to have a third child, and maybe that was too much for the dad, and then he left, and then the mom and the grandma died, and the dad was like, I can't, and he didn't come back, and that's why they don't speak of him. Because it just seems like the way she talks, it's like they didn't really have money to begin with, or a lot of money. And the way she talked, they used to like cut corners by going to the public bath and everything. And then they had to build a bath because the family got bigger. So they made this addition. The way she talks about it, it makes me so curious to know more about their family and more about their background. It's like when you get to know like your friend's family and you start to learn things about their friend's family, and you slowly realize that every family has issues and every family has drama. Every family has stuff going on. It has its own layers of complexity. And I feel like Ray is like the Oz curtain just got pulled back with this bathroom edition. And Ray is starting to see the complexities underneath with this family that he doesn't even barely understand, much less us, the audience, right? But they don't have a lot of room in that damn yard. There is not a lot of room at all. It's barely big enough for like anything. So they're like, if we add on any extra room, what do we do? So she's like, yeah, it's just troublesome when guests come over. And I like that Mom was like, Ray, don't look. And then he goes upstairs. But I love that as he's laying down and he looks, and I love the idea the string is convenient. Because at his house, in his apartment, there's nothing really convenient. Everything is just there, but there's nothing made for comfort or ease. But as he's going to that string, there is a convenience that feels like home. And he's like, how can I sleep like it's normal in the house of a family I've only known for a little bit? Why do I feel at peace when I'm here? And that's when he notices, he thinks about back in that old memory, and he looks over and sees the stickers on there from clearly Momo or Hina or somebody. Oh. And he sees that all there, and he instantly realizes that it's making him think of home. That moment that he smiles, that almost got me, where he's like, this feels like home. Like, and the thing about it is that it's such a contrast to his house with the foster family. Like, the foster family had the shiny toys and they had the shiny things and the promise of shogi and all this, but it didn't, in all the flashbacks we've seen of Ray with the foster family, it doesn't feel cozy. There's a coldness to it and a distance. And here, him seeing the stickers and realizing this is kind of like his biological home, it feels warm and it feels like home. This show just out here to make me, just out here to get me. This old house had time, everyone, everything, even me. Let me just go through it all there. Yep. All gently embraced together. Oh, I love it so much. Oh, and him being happy and sleeping like great for the first time. Oh, oh my heart. Oh my heart. I freaking love it. I love it so much. Oh. Anyway, so this episode was amazing and I loved it. It may be one of my favorite episodes so far, and I say that every week because every week they're great, but I just, after all of the bittersweet, like soul-crushing, just like anxiety-ridden episodes that have led up to this was like such a palate cleanser. This felt like just, here's your medicine, drink your juice, Shelby. It's all gonna go down, and you're gonna cleanse your palate before we start Act 2 of this series. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I love it. I'm excited. I hope you all are too. So yeah. I hope you all enjoyed this episode and discussion and the reaction. I'm so curious to know your thoughts down below, but I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more March Comes In Like a Lion. Bye!